Filthy animals like you don't belong in courthouses. Officer Coleman's words landed just before his open palm cracked across Angela Washington's face, sharp enough to turn heads. Her briefcase spun out of her grip, legal documents scattering like confetti across the courthouse steps. He shoved her down, marble scraping her skin as his knee pressed into her back. "You think you're somebody?" "Not here," he sneered, twisting her arms until they burned. The clanking of steel handcuffs drew laughter from nearby officers, phones raised like it was a show. One muttered, "She doesn't look like the usual protesters." Another shrugged. "Doesn't matter, Coleman runs this place." Her jaw clenched, but her eyes stayed fixed on the courthouse doors, the bronze nameplate gleaming above. 6 meters from the chamber of justice, the symbol of fairness, she was pinned like a criminal brutalized by the very system she had served. The crowd roared, never suspecting the footage would ignite a reckoning far beyond these steps. Want more touching stories about standing up to injustice? These black stories and real-life stories show how courage changes everything. Share a time you witnessed unfairness in the comments below. 6 hours earlier, Angela Washington's biggest concern was making it to her daughter's recital on time. The November rain hammered her Toyota Camry as she navigated through Oakland's evening traffic. In the back seat, 7-year-old Jasmine's violin case sat next to her backpack. The recital was at 7 p.m., and Angela had promised. She always kept her promises to Jasmine. The police lights appeared in her rearview mirror just after she passed Martin Luther King Jr. Way. No siren at first, just the silent hypnotic flash of red and blue painting her car's interior in alternating colors. Angela's stomach tightened. She hadn't been speeding. Her registration was current. Her tail light worked. She'd checked it last week. She pulled over anyway. That's what you do. That's what her father had taught her before a different police officer's bullet took him away in 1995. Always comply, baby girl. Always stay calm. Officer Derek Coleman approached her window with his hand already on his weapon. His badge number 4782 caught the streetlight. Angela would remember that number. She'd make sure everyone remembered it. License and registration. Of course, officer. May I ask why you pulled me over? License and registration. Angela reached slowly for her purse, narrating each movement another lesson from her father. I'm reaching for my purse now. It's in the passenger seat. Step out of the vehicle. The words hit like ice water. I'm sorry, what? Officer, I haven't. Step out of the vehicle now. What choice did she have? Angela opened the door, her hands visible, her movements careful. The rain soaked through her blazer immediately. Coleman's partner. She never got his name, stood by the patrol car, watching. Turn around. Hands on the vehicle. Officer, I need to know what this is about. My daughter. Coleman's hand grabbed her wrist, twisting it behind her back. The pain shot up her shoulder. You're being detained for suspicious behavior. What suspicious behavior? Under what statute? Terry versus Ohio requires reasonable suspicion of... The handcuffs clicked shut, too tight, metal biting into skin. Now you're under arrest for resisting. I haven't resisted. I'm a law. Angela bit back the words. Not yet. Not the time to reveal that card. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, probably Jasmine's teacher wondering where she was. Coleman's hands searched her pockets, pulling out her wallet. It fell open, revealing the photo she kept there. Jasmine in her school uniform, gap-toothed smile bright as sunshine. The picture fluttered to the wet ground. Please, Angela's voice cracked for the first time. That's my daughter. Coleman's boot stepped on the photo as he moved to search her car. Deliberate? Maybe. Maybe not. But Angela memorized that too. The way mud smeared across Jasmine's smile. They found nothing, of course. There was nothing to find except legal briefs in her briefcase, a box of juice boxes for the recital, and a folder marked Washington v. State of California, a police brutality case she'd been working on for 3 months. Coleman saw the folder. His expression changed, a tightening around the eyes, a slight curl of his lip. He said something into his radio. Angela caught fragments. Bringing her in. Judge Mitchell's court. Yeah, that one. Judge Mitchell's court. The same judge who'd dismissed her last 3 police misconduct cases without hearing arguments. The same judge whose golf partner was the police union president. The patrol car's back seat smelled like vomit and desperation. Angela kept her breathing steady, running through legal precedents in her mind like others might pray. Brown versus Texas, Miranda versus Arizona, Mapp versus Ohio. Each case a weapon she'd soon deploy. Her phone buzzed again in evidence bag up front. 7:15 p.m. now. Jasmine's recital had started. Another broken promise, another moment stolen. But Angela Washington had survived worse. Her father's death had taught her that justice wasn't given. It was taken, seized, demanded. And tomorrow morning in Judge Mitchell's courtroom, she would demand it with interest. The courtroom smelled like old wood and injustice. Angela stood in the defendant's box, still wearing yesterday's rain-wrinkled blazer. No phone call, no lawyer. Just her and the system that had already decided her fate. Judge Harold Mitchell presided like a king on his throne, his black robes making him look like a carrion bird. The fluorescent lights cast shadows under his eyes, but his smirk was clearly visible. He knew who she was. They both knew this dance. Miss Washington, you're charged with resisting arrest, obstruction of justice, and assault on a police officer. Assault? The word hung in the air like poison gas. Your Honor, I request counsel. Denied. You can represent yourself or plead guilty. The gallery stirred. Even the court reporter looked up from her keys. This wasn't just irregular, it was unconstitutional. Under the 6th Amendment, I have the right to... You have the right to remain silent. Mitchell's gavel crashed down. Officer Coleman, please describe the incident. Coleman stood, his uniform pressed to perfection, badge 4782 gleaming. The defendant was driving erratically. When I attempted a lawful stop, she became belligerent. She swung at me. Your Honor, I had to use necessary force to subdue her. Lies. Every word a lie wrapped in a uniform. Angela's hands clenched. That's completely false. I demand to see the dashcam footage. There is no footage, Coleman said smoothly. Camera malfunctioned. Of course it did. They always did when the truth needed hiding. Your Honor, Angela's voice stayed steady despite the rage building in her chest. I invoke my right under Brady v. Maryland to... One more word and you're in contempt. Mitchell leaned forward, his face reddening. This is my courtroom. It's the people's courtroom, Angela shot back. And the people deserve... Officer Coleman, please maintain order. That's when everything shifted into slow motion. Coleman walked toward her, each step deliberate. The bailiff moved aside. He'd seen this play before. The court reporter's fingers hovered over her keys, uncertain whether to record what came next. Angela saw it coming. The way Coleman's shoulder rotated, the way his weight shifted. She could have ducked, could have moved. She didn't. His open palm connected with her cheek with a sound like thunder. The slap spun her head sideways. Blood filled her mouth where her teeth cut the inside of her cheek. The courtroom gasped, a collective intake of breath that seemed to suck all the oxygen from the room. But Angela didn't fall. She turned back slowly, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. Her eyes found Coleman's, and something in her gaze made him step back. Thank you, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You just gave me everything I need. Mitchell's gavel pounded frantically. Order! Order! But there was no order anymore. The gallery erupted. Phones appeared despite the no-recording rule. An elderly black woman in the back row stood up and shouted, We see you, sister! We see what they're doing! Clear the courtroom! Mitchell's voice cracked with panic. No! Angela's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. She wiped the blood from her mouth with the back of her hand, then looked at the red smear like it was evidence, which it was. Your Honor, I need to inform you of something. Her voice carried that particular quality that made courtrooms fall silent. The voice of someone with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Mitchell's hand hesitated over his gavel. I've been recording this entire proceeding. The lie came so smoothly, it felt like truth. Coleman's face drained of color. Mitchell's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. That's illegal, Mitchell stammered. So is denying counsel. So is allowing assault in your courtroom. So is conspiracy to violate civil rights under Title 18, Section 241. Angela straightened her shoulders, blood still wet on her chin, and smiled. Now, shall we discuss what happens next? Angela stood up slowly after the slap, her movements deliberate as a chess grandmaster's final gambit. The blood on her lip tasted like vindication. Your Honor, she said, dabbing the blood with her sleeve, I move to represent myself pro se under Ferretta v. California. Mitchell's knuckles whitened as he gripped his gavel. You can't. I can and I am. Dr. Angela Washington, Yale Law, class of 2008, bar number 287653. I've argued 12 cases in this very courtroom, though you might not remember me without the handcuffs. The revelation rippled through the gallery like electricity. Coleman's hand instinctively moved to his weapon, a tell that everyone saw. Furthermore, Angela continued, her voice gaining strength with each word, I cite Powell versus Alabama and request immediate review of this entire proceeding. Every single violation you've committed in the last 10 minutes is grounds for mistrial, judicial review, and federal investigation. You're out of order. No, Your Honor. This court is out of order. Officer Coleman just committed assault under California Penal Code 240. You witnessed it. You permitted it. That makes you an accessory under Section 31. Mitchell's face cycled through shades of red. Officer Coleman was maintaining order. By striking a handcuffed defendant who posed no threat? Angela turned to the gallery. How many of you saw what just happened? Dozens of hands rose. A young man in the front row held up his phone. Got the whole thing, ma'am. Already uploaded to the cloud. Coleman lunged toward the man. That's illegal recording. Actually, Angela intercepted, it's not. California's open court rule allows recording unless explicitly prohibited by written order. Show me the written order, Officer Coleman. Silence. That's what I thought. Now let's discuss why you really arrested me. Angela reached into her jacket. Coleman tensed and pulled out a folded paper. This is a copy of my motion in Washington v. Oakland, PD, a motion that names you, Officer Coleman, in 14 separate incidents of false arrest. The court reporter's fingers flew across her keys, capturing every word. Your Honor's dismissal rate for police misconduct cases is 94%, Angela continued. Statistical probability suggests either our officers are saints or someone's protecting them. Which is it, Judge Mitchell? How dare you? I dare because my father couldn't. Her voice cracked for just a moment. Officer Marcus Thompson, badge 2847, shot him during a routine traffic stop in 1995. Said he reached for a weapon. It was his wallet, with my baby picture inside. The courtroom fell silent. Even Coleman stopped moving. But here's what you didn't know when you targeted me. Angela pulled out another paper, this one from her shoe where she'd hidden it during booking. This is a federal oversight order. The Department of Justice has been investigating this courthouse for 6 months. I'm not just a lawyer, Judge Mitchell. I'm their lead investigator. The lie was so perfect, so beautifully timed, that Mitchell actually stood up from his bench. That's impossible. I would have been notified, ... Would you? The same way you notify defendants of their rights? The same way Officer Coleman notifies suspects before he turns off his body cam? She turned to Coleman. Oh yes, I know about the camera. But did you know your partner's camera was on? Officer Rodriguez, badge 5623. He's been cooperating with federal authorities for 3 months. Coleman's head snapped toward the door, looking for a partner who wasn't there. The doubt in his eyes was delicious. Every false arrest, every covered assault, every dismissed case, we have it all. Angela walked toward the bench, her heels clicking like a countdown. So, here's what happens next. You're going to dismiss all charges. You're going to apologize to this court, and then you're going to recuse yourself from every case on your docket while the real investigation begins. Or, Mitchell's voice was barely a whisper. Angela smiled, blood still staining her teeth. Or we find out what happens when a federal investigation becomes a federal indictment. Your choice, Your Honor. She paused at the foot of the judge's bench, looking up at Mitchell like he was already falling. The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Then Angela began to dismantle them piece by piece. Let's start with the basics, Your Honor. Terry versus Ohio, 1968. She paced the courtroom like she owned it, blood still dried on her chin. An officer needs reasonable, articulable suspicion to conduct a stop. Officer Coleman, what was your reasonable suspicion? Coleman shifted. Erratic driving. Define erratic. You were swerving. Was I? Let's examine that. Angela pulled out her phone, somehow still in her pocket despite the search. This is my GPS data from last night. 23 minutes of driving, average speed, 28 in a 30 zone, 0 lane departures. But here's the interesting part. She held up the screen. I was tracked by your patrol car for 11 minutes before the stop. 11 minutes of perfect driving. That's not suspicion, officer. That's hunting. A woman in the gallery whispered, "My God!" Next issue, Angela continued. The arrest. You claimed I resisted. But resistance requires physical opposition to lawful authority. Key word, lawful. An unlawful arrest cannot be resisted by definition People versus Curtis, California Court of Appeal. Mitchell's gavel raised weakly. Ms. Washington, Dr. Washington, and I'm not finished. She turned to the gallery. James, are you here? A young Asian man in a sharp suit stood. Yes, Dr. Washington. Mr. James is my colleague at Bay Area Legal Defense. James, what did you file yesterday? James's voice rang clear. A formal complaint against Officer Coleman for false arrest of my client, Terrence Williams, nearly identical circumstances, traffic stop, no violation, arrest for resisting, and the date, 6 days ago. And before that, James pulled out his tablet. Officer Coleman has arrested 15 black drivers in 6 months, all for resisting, all charges dropped or dismissed, but not before they spent nights in jail, lost jobs, missed their children's birthdays. Coleman's partner, who'd been silent until now, suddenly spoke from the back. That's not... Derek told me they were all legitimate... Officer Martinez? Angela turned to him. You've been Coleman's partner for 3 weeks. How many body cam malfunctions have you witnessed? Martinez looked between Coleman and Angela, sweat beading on his forehead. 7. 7 malfunctions. The gallery erupted. Mitchell hammered his gavel uselessly. 7 in 3 weeks, Angela repeated. Yet your camera worked fine, didn't it, Officer Martinez? Should we review last night's footage? Coleman spun toward Martinez. You said you deleted... He stopped. The admission hung in the air like a noose. Spoliation of evidence, Angela announced. Destruction of exculpatory material. That's a felony, Officer Coleman, and you just confessed in open court. She turned back to Mitchell. But let's discuss your role, Your Honor. You've dismissed 47 police misconduct cases in 3 years. 47 out of 50. Would you like to explain that pattern? Every case is evaluated on its merits. Really? Then let's examine the merits. Angela pulled out a thick folder from her briefcase, the one Coleman had searched. Johnson versus Coleman dismissed. Roberts versus Coleman dismissed. Lee versus Coleman dismissed. Notice a pattern? James stood again. I'd like to submit additional evidence if the court permits. Mitchell's voice cracked. This isn't a trial. No, it's an arraignment where you denied counsel and permitted assault. So let's make it a trial. Mr. James? James opened his briefcase. These are sworn affidavits from 12 of Coleman's victims, each describing identical tactics, pretextual stops, false resistance charges, and mysteriously malfunctioning cameras. Your Honor, Coleman protested, those people are criminals. Actually, Angela interjected, they're a teacher, a nurse, 2 software engineers, a pastor, 3 small business owners, a retired veteran, and 2 college students. Their only crime? Driving while black in Officer Coleman's patrol zone. She walked to the court reporter. You're getting all this, right, Ms. Bradley? The reporter nodded, fingers flying. Good. Because here's the smoking gun. Angela reached into her jacket again. Coleman actually put his hand on his weapon this time and pulled out a small USB drive. This contains audio from Coleman's patrol car. Not the official recording that was deleted. But Officer Martinez, did you know your personal phone was recording when you left it on the dashboard? Martinez went pale. What? October 15th, 11:47 p.m. Should I play it for the court? Mitchell stood. That's inadmissible. In a trial, maybe. But this is an arraignment, remember? Your rules. Angela plugged the USB into her phone. Want to hear what Officer Coleman said about Judge Mitchell? About their arrangement? Coleman lunged forward. You can't? 2 bailiffs stepped between them, unsure who they were supposed to protect. Or, Angela said calmly, we can end this right now. Dismiss the charges. Open a real investigation. And maybe you both avoid federal prison. That's when the door burst open. A tall black woman in a federal prosecutor's suit walked in, followed by 2 FBI agents. Nobody move, she announced. I'm Assistant U.S. Attorney Patricia Williams. We've been monitoring this proceeding. Mitchell collapsed back into his chair. Coleman's hand fell from his weapon. Angela smiled. She'd been bluffing about the federal investigation. But sometimes, the universe provides. Assistant U.S. Attorney Patricia Williams moved through the courtroom like a storm system arriving. Your Honor, we need to clear something up immediately. Her voice carried the weight of federal authority. Dr. Washington isn't our investigator, but she just gave us everything we need. Angela's bluff had been called, but it didn't matter anymore. The truth was better. Play the recording, Dr. Washington, Williams ordered. Angela's finger hovered over her phone. The courtroom held its breath. Even the bailiffs leaned in. The audio crackled to life. Coleman's voice filled the room, casual and poisonous. Just picked up another one. Yeah, the lawyer. Mitchell wants her scared before that police brutality case, same as always. Then Mitchell's voice, unmistakable. Make sure she spends the night in holding. I'll handle the arraignment. No lawyers, no problems. The recording continued. Coleman laughing. $40 says she cries when I arrest her. Mitchell. Just don't leave marks this time. The last one took photos. That's why God invented resisting arrest, Harry. They both laughed. The sound of it casual corruption as entertainment made the gallery recoil. But Angela wasn't done. There's more. Officer Martinez, you recorded this accidentally, but you kept recording on purpose, didn't you? Martinez stood slowly, his young face twisted with conflict. My training officer told me Coleman was dirty, said to document everything, but I was scared. He threatened my family if I reported him. When? Williams asked. 3 weeks ago. Right after I questioned the 7th camera malfunction. Angela pulled out another paper. This is Coleman's actual body cam footage from last night. Not deleted, just hidden in a partition file. I'm a lawyer, Officer Coleman, but my daughter's a computer science major at Berkeley. She taught me a few things. The video played on the courtroom's monitor. Coleman approaching Angela's car. No swerving, no traffic violation. Just Coleman on his radio. Got her. Moving in. Then the search. Angela's photo of Jasmine falling. Coleman's boot grinding it into the mud. Deliberate, calculated, cruel. Oops, Coleman's voice on the recording. Accidents happen. A woman in the gallery started crying. Another stood up and walked out, unable to watch more. But the worst was yet to come. The video showed Coleman planting something in Angela's car, a small bag he pulled from his own pocket and tucked under her seat. Then he removed it before the official search when he realized she was a lawyer. Evidence tampering, Williams announced. That's 10 years federal time. Coleman's legs gave out. He dropped into a chair, head in his hands. But wait, Angela said, her voice sharp as glass. There's one more piece. She turned to Mitchell. Your Honor, remember the Johnson case? The one you dismissed last month? The plaintiff died 3 days later. Suicide, the report said. That has nothing to do with... He left a note. His family gave me a copy. Angela's voice broke slightly. It said, Judge Mitchell told me I'd never win. That cops like Coleman own this city. That I should give up, so I did. The courtroom erupted. People shouting, crying, demanding justice. Williams raised her hand. FBI agents are stationed at every exit. No one leaves until we've taken statements. She turned to Mitchell. Judge Harold Mitchell, you're under arrest for conspiracy to violate civil rights, judicial misconduct, and racketeering. Then to Coleman. Officer Derek Coleman, you're under arrest for assault, false imprisonment, evidence tampering, and violation of civil rights under color of law. The FBI agents moved in with handcuffs, the same kind Coleman had used on Angela, but these clicked with the sound of justice. Coleman looked at Angela as the cuffs closed. You set this up. You knew they were investigating. Angela shook her head. I knew nothing. I just refused to be victim number 16. As they led Coleman away, his body cam still recording in evidence captured his final words. It was just supposed to scare her. Williams turned to Angela. Dr. Washington, how did you really know we'd be here? Angela smiled, blood still staining her teeth. I didn't. But I knew if I made enough noise, someone would listen. Someone always listens eventually. Even if it takes 28 years, she whispered, thinking of her father. Justice had finally heard her call. The FBI agents hadn't even reached the door when Coleman broke. Wait! His voice cracked like a teenager's. It wasn't just us. The whole system, Mitchell's just middle management. Williams stopped. The entire courtroom froze. Derek, shut your mouth, Mitchell hissed, struggling against his handcuffs. No! I'm not going down alone. Coleman turned to Williams, desperate. Captain Reynolds, the police union president, the mayor's chief of staff. They're all in on it. Angela stepped forward. Names. We want names. Coleman's eyes darted between Angela and the federal prosecutor. I have files, records of every payment, every order, every cover-up. Where? Williams demanded. Safety deposit box, First National Downtown Branch, box 472. Mitchell lunged at Coleman, but the FBI agents held him back. You stupid! Stupid? Coleman laughed bitterly. You promised me protection. You said the system would never turn on its own. Angela pulled out her phone again. Speaking of the system, I think everyone should see this. The courtroom monitor flickered to life with a new video security footage from the courthouse hallway, dated 1 week ago. Mitchell meeting with 3 men in expensive suits. The audio was muffled, but one phrase came through clearly. Washington needs to disappear. The gallery exploded. Camera phones appeared everywhere, streaming live to social media. The bailiffs didn't even try to stop them anymore. "Your Honor," Mitchell started. "You're not Your Honor anymore," Angela cut him off. "You're Defendant Mitchell, and everyone's watching." She turned to the gallery, to the cameras, to the world. "For 28 years, I believed the system failed my father by accident, that his death was one bad cop's mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. It was policy." James stood up, tablet in hand. "The patterns are all here. 1,500 false arrests in 5 years, 600 dismissed cases, 43 million in stolen futures, lost jobs, broken families, destroyed lives." "And 37 deaths?" Angela added quietly. 37 people who died in custody or shortly after release. Suicides, they said. Accidents. Natural causes at age 25. A young black woman in the gallery stood up. "My brother was one of them. Marcus Williams. Coleman arrested him last year." Another voice. "My son, too. David Martinez. My husband. My daughter." One by one, they stood. The victims' families, the survivors, the ones who'd been silenced for years. Their presence filled the courtroom like a tide of justice, delayed but not denied. Coleman looked at the faces surrounding him and something finally broke. "I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. They told me it was just crowd control, keeping the peace, but it was ethnic cleansing in slow motion." "Save it for your confession," Williams said coldly. But Angela wasn't done. She walked to the judge's bench, Mitchell's former throne, and picked up his gavel. "This piece of wood has destroyed more lives than any weapon. With this, you crushed hope. With this, you murdered justice." She raised it high, then brought it down with devastating force. Crack. "By the power vested in me by absolutely nobody," Angela announced, "I declare this court is no longer in session. This mockery of justice is over." The crowd roared approval. Williams stepped forward. "Dr. Washington, that's not how—" "I know exactly how it works," Angela interrupted, "and that's the problem. The proper channels, the official procedures, the correct forms, they're all designed to exhaust us into silence. But not today." She walked down from the bench, approaching Coleman. "Badge 4782. You took my father's generation. You tried to take mine, but you will not touch my daughters. That ends now." Coleman flinched as she reached toward him, but Angela simply unpinned his badge and held it up to the light. "This tin shield made you think you were God. But you're just a man. A small, frightened man who needed a gun and a badge to feel powerful." She dropped the badge. It clattered on the floor with a sound like breaking chains. The doors burst open again. News crews flooded in, their cameras capturing everything. The story was already trending globally. Hashtag justice for Angela, hashtag courtroom revolution, hashtag system exposed. Mitchell made one last desperate attempt. "This is all illegal. Nothing that happened here can be used." "You're right," Angela said. "Your kangaroo court was illegal. But you know what's legally admissible? Confessions in front of federal prosecutors, spontaneous statements, public admissions of guilt." She smiled, and for the first time since her father died, it reached her eyes. "You played yourself, Your Honor." The FBI led them away as the world watched. 2 men in handcuffs, their empire of silence finally shattered. But this was just the first climax. The real revolution was about to begin. 6 months later, Angela Washington stood in the same courtroom, but everything had changed. The old judge's bench had been removed, replaced with one that sat level with the public justice, no longer looking down on the people it served. Natural light flooded through windows that had been painted over for decades. The walls displayed photos of victims of police brutality, including her father, each one a reminder of why this transformation mattered. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Angela Washington." She'd resisted the appointment at first, but when 12,000 Oakland residents signed the petition, When the Federal Oversight Committee unanimously approved, when Jasmine hugged her and said, "Dad would want you to," Angela knew she had no choice. "Please, sit," Angela said, taking her seat. "This court doesn't stand on ceremony anymore. We stand on truth." Her first case was deliberate symbolism. People versus Reynolds. The former police captain who'd orchestrated Coleman's arrests sat where Angela had stood bleeding 7 months ago. "Captain Reynolds, you're charged with conspiracy, racketeering, and violation of civil rights. How do you plead?" Reynolds's expensive lawyer started to speak, but Angela raised her hand. "I asked your client, counselor." In this court, everyone speaks for themselves. The new rules were already legendary. No more rushed arraignments. Mandatory body cameras that uploaded to federal servers in real time. Public defenders who weren't overwhelmed and underfunded. And judges who lived in the communities they served. "Not guilty," Reynolds muttered. "Noted. Bail is set at $5 million. "Your Honor," the lawyer protested, "that's excessive. Your client stole $43 million in futures from this community. $5 million seems like a discount." Angela turned to the gallery. "Unless anyone objects?" The packed courtroom, victims, families, activists, citizens remained silent. Motion carries. But the real revolution happened after court. Angela had instituted Justice Hours open sessions where anyone could speak directly to the judge about systemic issues. No lawyers needed, no fees, just truth. Mrs. James, an elderly woman, stood first. "My grandson was arrested last month. Old warrant from a Coleman case. They still haven't cleared them all." Angela made a note. "Every Coleman arrest from the past 5 years is under review. Your grandson will be released today with full expungement." A young man raised his hand. "What about compensation?" "I lost my job after a false arrest. My kids went hungry." "The Restoration Fund," Angela announced, "funded by police pension forfeitures from convicted officers. Every victim gets baseline compensation plus calculated losses. Applications open tomorrow." James, now lead prosecutor for civil rights cases, presented the latest report. "In 6 months, we've convicted 18 officers, 3 judges, and 6 city officials. Arrests of black drivers down 78%. Complaints against police down 85%. But best of all," he pulled up a chart on the courtroom's new transparent display system, visible to everyone. "Trust in the justice system up 400% in minority communities." The gallery erupted in applause, but Angela wasn't celebrating yet. "What about the recruitment program?" James smiled. 47 new officers hired from Oakland neighborhoods, all required to live in the districts they patrol. All trained in de-escalation by community leaders, not military contractors. Officer Martinez now, Sergeant Martinez, stood in his new uniform. "We've also instituted the Washington Protocol. Any use of force automatically triggers federal review. No exceptions." Angela nodded. Her father's death had become a teaching moment, not a buried statistic. "And Mitchell?" someone called from the gallery. 25 to life, Williams announced from the back. She'd become a regular at these sessions. "Coleman got 30. They're in general population. No protective custody." "Justice," someone whispered. "No," Angela corrected. "Accountability. Justice would bring back the dead." The room fell silent, remembering. Then Jasmine walked in, carrying a box. Inside were hundreds of letters from across the country. Other cities implementing the Oakland model. Other victims finding their voices. Other daughters who wouldn't lose their fathers. "Mom," Jasmine said publicly, something she'd never done in court before, "there's a call from the president." Angela took the phone, putting it on speaker. The president's voice filled the room. "Judge Washington, we're announcing federal adoption of your reforms. Every courthouse in America. You've started something that can't be stopped." Angela looked at Coleman's badge, now framed on the wall under a plaque. Power corrupts. Transparency heals. It wasn't me, Mr. President. It was everyone who refused to be silent. I just got slapped loud enough for the world to hear. She hung up and faced her community, her real judges. This chair doesn't make me powerful. You do. The moment I forget that, you'd better slap some sense into me too. Everyone laughed, but Angela stayed serious. That's not a joke. It's a promise. This court belongs to you now. She raised Mitchell's old gavel, kept as a reminder, then set it down gently. Court is yours, Oakland. The celebration happened in the courthouse steps, transforming the cold marble into something warm and alive. Hundreds gathered as the sun set over Oakland, painting the sky the color of hope. Children played where protesters once bled. Families spread blankets where riot police once stood. The steps that had symbolized insurmountable power now hosted a community potluck. Angela sat on those steps, not above anyone but among them. Jasmine pressed against her side. Her daughter had grown 3 inches in the past 6 months, but she still fit perfectly in the crook of Angela's arm. Mom, tell me about Grandpa again. Angela had told this story 100 times since the trial, but tonight felt different. Tonight, other daughters were listening too. Your grandfather was driving home from his job at the post office. He'd worked a double shift to buy my prom dress. Angela's voice carried across the crowd and people quieted to listen. When the officer stopped him, he did everything right, hands visible. Yes, sir, no, sir, but sometimes right isn't enough when the system is wrong. Like you did everything right, Jasmine said. Until I didn't, Angela smiled. Until I decided that following their rules meant losing their game. Mrs. Williams approached, her son Marcus's photo in her hand. My boy would have been 32 today. Angela stood and embraced her. Then another mother joined them. Then another. Soon dozens of people formed a circle, each holding photos of the lost. We should be angry, someone said. We are angry, Angela replied. But we're more than that. We're powerful. Officer Martinez, Sergeant Martinez, now arrived in civilian clothes, off duty. He hesitated at the edge of the crowd until Angela waved him over. You're part of this too, she said. You chose justice over the blue wall. Martinez's eyes filled with tears. Coleman trained me to see threats. You taught me to see people. An elderly black man stood up. Robert Johnson, whose case had been dismissed by Mitchell years ago. I spent 40 years believing I was worthless, that my word meant nothing against a badge. Today, my granddaughter watched a black woman judge send corrupt cops to prison. You know what she said? Grandpa, I want to be a judge, too. The crowd murmured approval, but Angela shook her head. Don't let her be like me. Let her be better. Let her grow up in a world where she doesn't need to be slapped to be heard. James raised a glass of lemonade. To the slap heard round the world. No, Angela corrected. To the silence that's finally broken. They toasted with paper cups and juice boxes, nothing fancy, everything real. A teenager with a guitar started playing a slow melody that somehow captured grief and hope in the same chord. Others joined in, humming, creating something beautiful from shared pain. You know what Coleman took from me? Angela said suddenly. One recital. One violin recital. But you know what he gave me? All of you. This family forged in struggle. Jasmine pulled out her violin, the same one from that missed recital. I never got to play that night. Play now, baby. Jasmine stood, and in the gathering darkness, lit only by streetlights and phone screens held high like candles, she played. Not the simple piece from the recital, but something harder, something she'd learned while her mother fought for justice. The notes rose over Oakland like a prayer finally answered. When she finished, the silence was holy. Then applause thundered through the streets, not just from the gathered crowd, but from windows above, from passing cars, from a city learning to hope again. "This is what they feared," Angela said. "Not our anger, our unity, not our pain, our power, not our silence, our song." An old woman grabbed Angela's hand. "Your father would be so proud." Angela looked at the courthouse behind them, then at her daughter, then at the constellation of faces surrounding them, black, brown, white, Asian, all united by a shared hunger for justice. "He is proud," Angela said. "I can feel him in every life we've changed, every future we've saved, every child who'll grow up believing the law protects them too." Jasmine hugged her tighter. "We won, Mom." "No, baby. We're winning. There's a difference." The celebration continued into the night, but Angela held on to this moment, her daughter safe, her community strong, justice finally flowing like water. Tomorrow there would be more cases, more fights. Tonight, they had each other. 1 year later, Angela Washington stood before Congress, testifying about the Oakland model that had revolutionized American policing. "Justice isn't a verdict," she told the assembled senators. "It's a practice. Daily, deliberate, uncomfortable." The statistics spoke louder than any speech. Police brutality down 89% in cities adopting the reforms. Wrongful convictions overturned by the thousands. Trust in law enforcement rebuilt from the ground up. But Angela knew numbers didn't capture everything. They didn't capture Coleman crying in his cell, finally understanding the weight of his crimes. They didn't capture Mitchell's son apologizing to every family his father had wronged. They didn't capture the rookie cops who now wore cameras with pride, not resentment, knowing transparency protected everyone. They didn't capture Jasmine, now freshman class president, leading workshops on civil rights for kids who'd never have to experience what her mother did. "Senator," Angela addressed the committee chair, "you ask if one person can really change a system. I'm proof that's the wrong question." She looked directly into the CSPAN camera, knowing who was watching. "The question is, what injustice are you witnessing right now? What abuse of power are you staying silent about? What small courage are you withholding that could start an avalanche of change?" The senators shifted uncomfortably. "Good." "I was slapped in a courtroom." That slap echoed around the world because I refused to let it fade into silence. But thousands are slapped every day, physically, legally, economically. Their echoes die unheard. Angela pulled out her father's photo, now worn soft from handling. Marcus Thompson died in 1995. It took 28 years and another act of violence for his death to mean something. How many more are we waiting to matter? She stood, her time officially over, but her message just beginning. "You want to honor my story? Don't share it. Live it. Stand up to that corrupt supervisor. Record that illegal stop. Speak at that city council meeting. File that complaint. Be unreasonable in your demand for justice." Angela walked toward the exit, then turned back. "The system isn't broken. It was built this way, which means we don't fix it." She smiled, thinking of that bloody day in Mitchell's courtroom. "We rebuild it, one slap, one stand, one voice at a time."